Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Deep Dive.
Hey there. It's great to be here.
So today we have a really fascinating topic lined up for you. We're doing something a bit different.
Yeah, we are actually taking a bit of a virtual tour today.
Exactly, because, when you usually talk about elite technology institutes, places that are just totally redefining artificial intelligence or sustainable energy or aerospace, you tend to picture a very specific aesthetic.
Right, the classic ivory tower look.
Yeah, chrome, glass, perfectly manicured lawns.
Maybe a sterile office park out in Silicon Valley, or some dense, highly urbanized campus in Cambridge.
Spot on, very detached,
Yeah.
very industrial. But today, we're looking at something that completely flips that image on its head.
It really does.
We are exploring a campus that is consistently ranked as the #1 engineering institute in India. Yet, if you just dropped someone blindfolded into the middle of it, without any context.
They'd probably think they were on a wildlife safari.
Exactly, they'd think they were in a national park.
Which is such a fascinating paradox. You have literally one of the highest concentrations of sheer brain power in the global south, sitting right in the middle of a protected tropical, dry, evergreen forest.
We are, of course, talking about IIT Madras. And our mission for this deep dive is to take you on a guided walk through this place. We're using a really comprehensive virtual audio tour of the campus as our source material today, covering everything from academics and facilities to innovation.
It's a great source, very detailed.
And what I want to do is not just look at the buildings, but really understand how this specific environment, this massive 600-acre city within a city, actually shapes the people who study there.
Because it's not just a university. It operates like a self-sustained ecosystem.
That is the perfect way to frame it.
It is an ecosystem in every sense of the word. I mean, you have the literal biological ecosystem, the flora, the fauna, the endangered species.
Right.
And then stacked right on top of that, you have the intellectual ecosystem, which is equally complex and layered. And honestly, neither really makes sense without the other.
So let's start with the foundation. And I don't mean the concrete foundation of the buildings. I mean, how does a massive technical institute end up inside the Gindi National Park in the first place?
Yeah, it wasn't an accident.
No, looking at the history, it was a very deliberate, major geopolitical move back in 1959.
It was. To really understand IIT Madras, you have to look at the post-war industrial landscape. India was a young, newly independent nation, and it was absolutely desperate to industrialize rapidly.
So the government reached out for help.
Exactly. They reached out to West Germany. This became known as the Indo-German Agreement.
Which is just such an interesting pairing for the late 50s. You have this sweeping Nehruvian vision of a modern India directly meeting the famous German precision of their post-war reconstruction.
Precisely. And that specific DNA is still incredibly visible on the campus today. Because the German government didn't just write a blank check and walk away.
Right, they were heavily involved.
Very involved. They sent their own technical expertise. They helped physically set up the laboratories. And most importantly, they established a pedagogical approach that was intensely hands-on.
The workshop culture.
Yes, the workshop culture. It wasn't just sit in a room and read this theory about mechanics. It was go into the workshop, get your hands dirty, and physically build this machine.
Which changes everything about how you learn.
It does. That workshop culture is the absolute bedrock of the Institute's success. It is a huge reason why they just dominate the NIRF rankings, the National Institutional Ranking Framework, year after year.
And all of that intense academic rigor is happening in this completely wild setting. Let's talk about the green campus aspect, because calling it green feels like a massive understatement.
Oh, absolutely.
We're talking about a campus carved directly out of a national park.
It effectively is an extension of the park. The boundary between where the campus ends and the forest begins is incredibly porous.
Yeah, the audio tour mentioned there are roughly 300 distinct species of plants and animals just living right alongside the students.
And we aren't just talking about, squirrels and pigeons.
No, definitely.
We are talking about spotted deer, monkeys, and more importantly, the black buck.
The black buck. This is an endangered species. For those who don't know, it's this incredibly majestic antelope with these long spiral horns.
It is exceptionally rare to find them coexisting so closely with dense human habitation like this. But at IIT Madras, it's just a normal Tuesday morning.
I love that image. You're just walking to a highly advanced lecture on quantum computing, and you literally have to stop and yield to an endangered species crossing the road.
It creates this completely surreal juxtaposition. You are dealing with the most futuristic, abstract concepts known to man, but your immediate physical reality is primal.
It has to have a grounding effect on the students.
I think it does.
You can't get too lost in the digital cloud when you are physically walking through a thick forest to get to your dorm.
It fosters a very specific kind of situational awareness. You are constantly reminded that you are part of a much larger living system. But let's actually navigate this space. If we're walking onto the campus, everything basically revolves around the central hub.
Gajendra Circle, or as it's universally known, GC.
GC is the heartbeat of the campus. Functionally, it's a massive roundabout, but structurally, it's the main navigational anchor.
The tour noted it was first established in 1963.
Yes, and the version we see today is actually the fourth iteration of it. It effectively slices the entire 600-acre property into 3 distinct zones.
You have the residential zone for the faculty, the hostel zone for the students, and the academic zone. Let's head straight into the academic zone first, because this is where that Indo-German legacy really shows up in the physical environment.
It's very apparent there.
You have the Heritage Center, which was established in 2006 on the first floor of the admin building. That houses all the photos and documents of this legacy. But I really want to go to the old school gems.
Oh, the classic departments.
Yeah, the Department of Aerospace Engineering, for example.
That building is just a classic example of the Institute's entire philosophy.
Because you walk in, and you aren't just greeted by a whiteboard or a computer screen. There is a massive deconstructed aircraft right there on display.
Right in the building. It moves engineering from the abstract realm right into the tactile.
Exactly.
When you can physically see the internal rib structure of an aircraft wing, when you can reach out and touch the fuselage suddenly, the fluid dynamics equations you are learning in the classroom have real physical stakes.
It completely bridges that gap between textbook theory and physical reality.
It does, and that theme continues right into the mechanical sciences block.
This blew my mind. The building that houses mechanical and chemical engineering contains nearly 100 different laboratories.
100 labs. Just think about the sheer density of experimentation happening in that one space.
It's massive.
You have everything from high-level heat transfer experiments to complex chemical catalysis happening under one single roof. That is the ultimate manifestation of the German workshop legacy we talked about. It's basically an industrial powerhouse disguised as a university department.
But, and this is crucial, the campus isn't just stuck in the 1960s glory days. You walk a little bit further and you hit the NAC.
A new academic complex.
Yeah, and hitting the NEC feels like taking a time jump. The architecture completely changes, and the research focus sharply shifts from heavy mid-century industry to absolute future tech.
This is where the Institute pivots hard to address 21st century problems. For instance, you have the Indian Solar Energy Harnessing Center located here.
Which is just intensely critical for India's future energy independence.
It's absolutely vital. And they aren't just in there studying standard solar panels. They are researching deep problems regarding efficiency, battery storage, and complex grid integration specifically tailored for tropical climates.
But the real crown jewel of the new complex, at least based on the audio tour, has to be the Sudha Gopalakrishnan Brain Center.
Oh, hands down.
This place was established very recently, right? March 19th, 2022.
Yes, very new.
And the way it's described, it sounds way less like a traditional biology lab and much more like a massive data center.
Well, that's because it essentially is both. This center is the perfect example of modern multidisciplinary science. They are mapping the human brain.
Right.
But they aren't just looking at tissue samples under a standard microscope. They are actively generating petabytes of data, imaging the entire human brain at a cellular resolution.
So they are effectively creating like a Google Earth for the human brain.
That is exactly what they're doing. That's a great analogy.
Yeah.
And to achieve that, you need unbelievable amounts of computing power. You need top-tier computer scientists working shoulder to shoulder with neuroscientists.
Which is wild to think about.
They're trying to map and understand neural pathways to treat devastating diseases like Alzheimer's. But the primary tool they are using to do it is big data.
It really shows how the core definition of engineering at IIT Madras has expanded over the decades. It is no longer just about building bridges or engines. They are reverse engineering the human mind.
It's a huge leap. And speaking of expanding the definition of engineering, we have to talk about the Department of Engineering Design.
Set up in 2006.
Right. And this department seems specifically designed to address a very common criticism that gets leveled at engineers.
That they build incredibly complex things that work perfectly but are absolutely impossible for a normal person to use.
Exactly, the usability gap. This department was actually India's first multidisciplinary design initiative within a formal engineering school. The entire focus here is on form, aesthetics, and ergonomics.
It's basically the Apple approach to engineering. It is not enough for the device to just mathematically function. It has to be intuitive to a human being.
Exactly. It deliberately brings the human element back into the engineering equation. And that philosophy flows right into the biotechnology department as well, which was established right around the same time in 2004.
You can see the whole campus moving toward this very holistic view of technology. It has to be sustainable, it has to be biological, it has to be usable, and it has to be robust.
It's a total paradigm shift.
Now, all of this serious academic work happens in the classrooms and the official labs. But I always feel like the real soul of any university campus lives in what the students are doing when the professors aren't watching.
Oh, without a doubt.
And at IIT Madras, that raw creative energy seems heavily concentrated in the CFI, the Center for Innovation.
The famous extracurricular zone. This is, frankly, where the real magic happens on campus.
The backstory is great, too. It was established in 2008, but with major support from the alumni batch of 1981. And they have this motto that is just killer.
Walk in with an idea and walk out with a product.
It's such an empowering statement.
It is. But more than just being empowering, it acts as a permission structure for the students.
How so?
Well, in a very traditional, rigorous academic setting, you are often implicitly told, wait until you have your degree to actually build something real. You need more theory first.
Right. Wait your turn.
Exactly. But the CFI says the exact opposite. It said, no, build it right now, break it right now, fix it right now. And the key is that it is a student-run lab.
Meaning there is no professor hovering over your shoulder, grading your process, or telling you that your idea for a robot doesn't make theoretical sense.
Precisely. You have all these different clubs operating in there. The automotive club, aerospace, robotics, cultural tech.
And the atmosphere is just described as completely chaotic, but in the best possible way.
Totally chaotic. You've got banners hanging everywhere from the different clubs. You've got mechanical parts and wires scattered across every table. You have students intensely debating design choices at 2 in the morning.
It's basically the classic garage startup culture, but intentionally incubated right in the middle of a university campus.
It is a safe space to fail. And if you are going to be a true innovator, you absolutely need to get your big failures out of the way early.
And a lot of those late-night projects don't just stay in the lab. Many of them turn into real startups.
That's the established pipeline now. You start your project at CFI, you eventually incubate it over at the IIT Madras Research Park, and then you launch it into the real world.
So you spend all night building a rover or a drone at CFI, and eventually you do have to sleep. Which brings us over to the residential zone. And here is where we get a fun little lesson in Indian geography.
The naming conventions are so beautiful here. The campus has 20 hostels in total, 5 for female accommodation and 15 for male. And every single one of them is named after an Indian river.
You've got the Ganga, the Jamuna, the Kaveri.
And the newest addition, Mandakini.
Mandakini is apparently a beast of a building. It's the newest and the largest hostel on the campus. But the architecture aside, what really matters here is the governance structure.
The student councils.
Yeah. These hostels aren't just giant dorms where you quietly go to sleep. They are basically mini democracies.
They really are. Each hostel is managed by its own elected student council. They manage the internet facilities, they run the internal libraries, they handle the washing machines, they organize the entertainment events.
Which has to be a massive part of the actual education you get there, right?
Oh, it's arguably just as important as the engineering classes.
Learning how to manage a real budget, dealing with noise complaints from stressed out students, organizing large groups of people.
It's intensive leadership training. Think about it. You are managing a highly dense community of hundreds of incredibly smart, incredibly opinionated young people.
If you can successfully run a hostel council at IIT Madras, you can probably run a mid-sized tech company without breaking a sweat.
You really could.
And then the geography lesson continues when it's time to eat, because you sleep in the rivers, but you eat in the mountains.
The mess halls. They made a distinct shift in the naming convention here. The 3 main food halls are named after the great mountain ranges.
Himalaya, Nilgiri, and Vindhya.
I just love the mental image of a student waking up in the Kaveri River and then sleepily trekking over to the Himalayas to grab some idli and sambar for breakfast.
It gives the daily routine on campus this almost mythic scale. And just like the hostels, these mess halls are run by mess councils that include heavy student participation.
They get to decide the menu and manage the operations. And anyone who has ever lived on a university campus knows that food is easily the most contentious, highly political issue there is.
Oh, definitely.
So managing the Mez Council is a serious diplomatic skill in itself.
Okay, so we've covered the intense brain work, the innovation labs, and the living arrangements. But we absolutely have to talk about the physical side of campus life, because there is this pervasive stereotype that elite engineering students just spend 24 hours a day coding in a dark, air-conditioned room.
A total myth.
Right, because IIT Madras is actually a massive sports powerhouse.
They aren't just good, they are a literal dynasty.
The audio tour laid out the stats for the Inter-IT Sports Meet, which is essentially the Olympics of the entire IIT system across India.
And the stats are wild. Out of 51 total meets, IIT Madras has won the general championship 19 times.
19 times. That is just total dominance.
It is. You do not get that kind of consistent record by accident. You need a deeply ingrained culture of physical fitness. But more importantly, you need serious infrastructure.
And they clearly have it. The tour of the sports facilities is extensive.
Very. They operate on this core philosophy that a healthy mind absolutely requires a healthy body.
You start with the Chimplast cricket ground, which is professional grade, complete with proper practice nets.
Then you have the football grounds, which feature massive floodlights for day and night matches.
Which is pretty essential.
Highly essential given the intense heat and humidity in Chennai during the day. You really want to be playing at night.
Then there's the Manohar Watsa Stadium, a dedicated athletic facility with a full 400-meter track.
The aquatics complex with a full Olympic-sized swimming pool and diving boards.
But out of all these world-class facilities, my absolute favorite detail from the tour is the Sangam ground.
Yes, the skating rink.
Technically a skating rink.
Technically,
Right.
but practically.
Practically, it's a cricket pitch. Because as the tour so wonderfully points out, students are constantly found right in the middle of the rink playing pickup cricket.
It is the universal rule of Indian public space. If an area is flat and reasonably clear, it is a cricket pitch.
It just speaks to the vibrancy and the relatability of the place. You have these elite, highly disciplined athletes training at the Watsa Stadium for the championships on one side of campus, and then you have a bunch of stressed-out friends blowing off steam playing a chaotic game of cricket on a skating rink.
It makes it a very lived-in environment. It's not just a showpiece.
It feels incredibly communal. And speaking of communal experiences, we cannot finish our tour without mentioning the OAT.
The open-air theater.
The scale of this place is genuinely hard to convey just through audio.
It seats roughly 7,000 people.
7,000? That's not a campus lecture hall. That is a mid-sized arena concert venue.
It really is. And they use it for everything. They have weekly movie screenings there, massive cultural programs, the huge annual fests like Sarang, and major institute gatherings.
Just imagine the atmosphere.
Imagine sitting in that massive Roman-style amphitheater under the night sky, completely surrounded by the dense forest, with 7,000 of your peers. The collective effervescence of that experience is a huge defining part of the memory of being a student there.
It completely anchors the social life of the campus. You work incredibly hard in the labs, you compete fiercely on the sports fields, and then you all come together in this massive communal space.
And even for the people who don't live there, the visiting parents, the guest professors, the dignitaries, there is the Taramani Guest House. It just reinforces that core idea we started with. You never really need to leave the gates. It is a fully functional 600-acre city.
So we've walked all the way from the main gates, past the endangered black bucks, through the old heritage labs, into the cutting-edge brain mapping center, through the chaotic energy of the CFI, and ended up under the stars at the open-air theater.
Quite a tour.
It is. When you pull back and look at this entire picture, what is the core takeaway for you? Why does this specific, strange configuration of nature and technology actually matter to the rest of us?
I think it deeply challenges this persistent idea that innovation happens in a vacuum.
What do you mean?
Well, we often tend to think that if you just put a bunch of really smart people in a sterile room with fast computers, you automatically get progress. But IIT Madras suggests that the physical environment you're in matters just as much as the laboratory equipment.
It's a constant interaction between the green and the tech.
Exactly. Think about that young student working late at the Center for Innovation. Let's say they were designing a new sustainable energy solution.
Right.
If they were doing that inside a concrete office park in the middle of a smoggy city, the concept of sustainability is just an abstract data point on a screen.
It's just a metric.
Right. But at IIT Madras, when that student steps outside the lab at 2 a.m. to clear their head, they are literally breathing the air of a protected forest. They are physically looking at the wildlife that their technology is ultimately meant to protect. The feedback loop between their work and the natural world is immediate and tangible.
The environment isn't just a pretty backdrop for the campus brochure. It is an active stakeholder in the education.
It truly is. And the history plays a massive role in that, too. That Indo-German foundation of rigorous, hands-on workshop culture prevents the education from floating away into pure theory.
So you end up with this really unique triad.
Yes. You have intense technical rigor, you have the wild creative freedom in the student-run zones like CFI, and you have this deep ecological consciousness imposed by the forest itself.
And that specific combination produces a very specific type of engineer, someone who is deeply grounded in physical reality, but fully capable of a high-level futuristic abstraction.
It really is a compelling argument for better, more thoughtful campus design all over the world. We shape our buildings, and thereafter they shape us.
Ah, Winston Churchill said that, right?
He did, and it applies so perfectly here. Only in this case, it's the forest that shapes the engineer.
Well, I hope this virtual walk gave you all a real sense of what it is like to stand at that unique intersection of nature and machine. Whether you're an alum listening to this and reliving the memories of movie night at the OAT, or just someone fascinated by how we build the institutions of the future, there is so much to learn from the Green Campus.
Definitely. And if you do ever get the chance to visit in person, keep a close eye out for the black books.
And maybe stay alert so you don't get hit by a stray cricket ball on the skating rink.
Good advice.
But I'll leave you with this one final thought to mull over. We talked about the brain center mapping neural pathways. Consider how the daily physical proximity to an ancient forest and endangered species might literally be rewiring the neural pathways of the very engineers tasked with designing our future. Does living in an ecosystem change the kind of AI or infrastructure you eventually build?
That is a great question to leave on.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We'll catch you on the next one.